So now let us understand about UVEology, that is ultraviolet energy logy. That is the science of using ultraviolet light to our advantage. And in 1995, when I purchased my first excimer laser, the laser company said that you cannot fumigate your operation theater with chemical fumigation because the laser mirrors would be disturbed. So I said, then what I do? So they said that either you do the surgery without fumigation or you find out a way. So ultimately, I found out a way that pharmaceutical companies, I went to Kedila and saw that their injection preparation plant was using ultraviolet rays in order to keep the bacteria and viruses floating in the air from entering into any of the medicine. Even the fruit industry, they use UV. The dry fruit industry uses UV. Even the fresh fruit, the grapes, they use UV to disinfect. And even the food industry, like this, making roti, sterilizing before it exits, they use UV. So let us understand ultraviolet light. This is a spectrum which is divided into UVA, UVB, and UVC. Now, UVC is the wavelength of light that is from 100 to 280 nanometers. And the complete UVC is absorbed by the oxygen on the upper layer in formation of the ozone. So naturally, the UVC does not reach the Earth's surface. It gets stopped about 15 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. UVB also stops at the junction between troposphere and the stratosphere, but UVB about 8 to 10% still leaks onto the surface, and UVA is in abundance on the surface, because by absorbing UVA, the trees, they do photosynthesis, and that is how the chlorophyll is produced. So UVA is the source for all of us for food. That is the basic source for food. And this is the depiction where the stratosphere is where the aeroplanes fly, then the cloud layer, and then the outer space. So UVC has not reached the Earth, and that's the reason why during the process of evolution, the microorganisms as well as the macroorganisms does not have a habit, or their DNA or their cells have not become used to sustain the UVC. So we are completely novel to UVC, and that's the reason why ultraviolet C light can destroy the microorganisms, viruses, fungi, and bacteria within a very short period of time. And Dr. Niels R. Finsen was the first person in he was French, he was physician from Amsterdam, Dutch physician. And in 1989, 122 years ago, he discovered that UVC, that was 200 to 280 nanometer wavelength, the light is certainly lethal to all microbes, all fungi, bacteria, and viruses. And it also killed Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is a very fastidious bacterium otherwise. And Clostridium welchii and Clostridium difficalis also die in UVC. And then he also found that UVA can kill the tuberculous bacteria. So he proposed Solarium Hospitals. And then, since for TB there were no medicine, so many Solarium Hospitals came up across the world, in which the patients will be put under the sun, and the windows of this are such that it will filter and bring concentrated UVA, and the reflectors were made, and windows had magnifying glass reflectors had such arrangement that the UVC would fall on the patient's chest, because the patient has coughed and has deposited a lot of microorganisms on his shirt, and that microorganism again is inspiring when he is taking an inspiration. So there was a reinfection. So his shirt also had to be disinfected, and he would then keep his mouth open and gasp and do sunbasking, sort of absorbing the UV radiation from the sun into his upper respiratory tract, taking ozone with it also. And then to have maximum use of the UVC during the daytime, they made rotating platform hospital rooms. These are known as rotating solariums. And we still have one rotating solariums in Jamnagar Medical College, which is India's only solarium. It's worth a visit now. It's a heritage building. And Dr. Neil Finchen was given Nobel Prize in 1903 for this discovery for physics, physiology, and medicine, and is the only Nobel Prize wherein his own photo is also carved on the other side. And as soon as the UVC strikes the viruses, it destroys the spike protein. It denatures the spike protein, and this takes only 4 seconds for doing. So at 2 millijoule per centimeter square dose at 250 nanometer UV energy, just in 4 seconds the virus becomes inactivated. Once the spikes are gone, the virus is as good as sterile. It is no more able to penetrate the cell. The cell would not catch it or cell would not identify it. तो ये जो है जिसका नख और डंक काट लिया गया है, ऐसे एक बिच्छू के जैसा हो गया rather than being infected, या तो एक ऐसा सांप की जिसका दांत निकाल दिया गया है. And then the second effect of UVC is ozonization. That is, when the UV light strikes on oxygen molecule, they dissociate. So from 4 oxygen molecules of 4 atoms from 2 molecules, they dissociate and they form ozone, which is having 3 oxygen, and 1 oxygen ion is free. And now this oxygen ion, free oxygen ion having 1 minus valency, that means it needs 1 electron to finish the saturation of its outer orbit. It is same as chlorine. Its outer orbit is same as chlorine, so the behavior is same as chlorine. So it is a strong oxidizing agent. And not only that, it smells like chlorine. It very much smells like chlorine and works like chlorine. And hence it is known as nascent oxygen. Normal oxygen is not smelly. Nascent oxygen you can smell, so its presence is known. And again, the nascent word comes from Sanskrit. Nas means nas, nose, and scent means smell. So inactivated virus like this, having the spikes gone, can work as a natural vaccine, and this is how the herd immunity is produced. Natural ultraviolet light in the outside environment, destroying the virus partially, and then those viruses going into our system. And so thanks to these sun-dried and UV-dried semi-dried virions, the epidemic usually, even if the vaccine and the medicine is not shown, slowly comes to an end, but it takes many, many months before it comes to its own end. And in 1918 Spanish flu, let us see what happened in United States. When they started having cases, they put a lockdown here somewhere in the end of September, towards the end of the September. The lockdown lasted till the middle of November, so almost about 2 months or 2.5 months. And then when they lifted the lockdown in the middle of November, because the Christmas was coming on, they then learned that lifting the lockdown for the Christmas was a mistake, because in Christmas people met each other and there were a lot of partying, and the cases increased more than the previous. So this is known as a double hump graph of the epidemic, and then that epidemic lasted almost another 2.5 years. So we have to learn from this epidemic 1980 how to curtail. And then ultimately at the end, they again realized from the TB patients treatment that let us mask these patients in the UV of the sunlight, and it was not by medicine, but it was by the sunlight UV that they could finally curtail down the epidemic. So UV is so much important in curtailing the viral epidemic, and the Chinese guys have learned very quickly. They're very quick learners. So within no time, they have come out with the ultraviolet light robots and ultraviolet trolleys, and they started disinfecting their hospitals with the UVC robotic trolleys. And not only that, for disinfecting their buses, they have made huge UV tunnels like this, so that the city bus would pass every 2 hours through this tunnel before starting the second round, before starting the second batch of passenger. And also they started disinfecting with UV their inner surfaces of the train, metro train coaches, subway train coaches. The entire metro trains are being fitted with the UV. And this is and then Russia also, this is the Moscow subway. And they started putting these UV robots in the public places, also in the foyers of the railway station. Even UVC are being fitted in the ceiling of the airport foyers also. Everywhere. The entire airport are getting UV fitted. Even their shoe trolleys and screening trolleys. Uh, and even the street lights and the parks, they are starting fitting the UV. Even the aeroplanes are being disinfected by UVC light, either by fitting the lights in some places or making a trolley having UV light in the center, having these wings which are the reflector, which will reflect UV where the passengers have touched the shells and the lids of the bin. And even the airport toilets are being fitted with UV. Baggages are also sterilized before they load and before they unload in UV. There are even the ambulances are fitted with UV. Operation theaters are also being fitted with UV. So we fitted UV in 1995 in our operation theaters, and we are using since 1995. And this is the ultraviolet light which is there in everywhere in my hospital. That light is always mentioned as UVC, and it contains a vapor of mercury, argon, and fluorine, and two electrodes. And this glass is not a simple glass, but this is a quartz glass which is transparent for the UV light. Normal glasses are not transparent for the UV light, so this is a special glass tube, and this is the UVC and hazard dimension. So argon, fluorine, and mercury generates the light. So essentially, this is an excimer light at 254 nanometer, and so this is how the light looks, and this is how it pulsates. So this pulsation is 60 hertz. So 60 times the ultraviolet rays are striking from one end to the other end. And there are UV meters which are available, so with which you can measure the intensity, and there are UV dosimeters also available with which you can measure the dose. This is unexposed, this is moderately exposed, this is fully exposed. So like autoclave labels, there are indicators, and there are another kind of indicators where the affected area turns green, and this is the control. And not only that, you can smell, as soon as you start the UV, within a minute, you can smell ozone, and then you can smell the protein burning, because the bacteria and the fungi, when they start dying, you get the smell which you get when you burn the hair, or when you burn the nail, or when you go to smashan and burn the dead body. The same kind of putrefaction smell you start smelling within a minute when you start the UV. So in our hospital, we have UV everywhere, in the operation theaters, in the waiting rooms, in the wards, in the counseling, in the examination room, and even on the doors, we have fitted it in such a way that the UV light will shine in the handle of the door, and when you open the door, the other side of the handle, other side handle also will be shown by the UV, so that it keeps on getting sterilized quite frequently. And here you can see the fluorescence marker. And all the stairs and the lift also, and the lift button also are being shined with UV light, even the toilets. So I can say that my Akshadeep Eye Hospital maybe can be renamed as Akshadeep UV Hospital. And here I would like to remind you or inform you that UVA 340 nanometer, which is available as black or white light, is not thermicidal. It is only for fluorescence purpose. So they use it in disco just to make a mesmerizing color by inducing fluorescence on their t-shirts design. UVC is the only thermicidal. Now something about UVC side effects. Uh, there are these three references which I have mentioned here, which is Occupational Safety Hazard, Wikipedia, and Massachusetts Institute of Technology. research paper, and this is ISO 158 paper, and they have set the standards. So according to that, the mild to moderate corneal epithelial burns after UVC dose of 3.1 joule per centimeter square for 1000 seconds, that is 16.5 minutes, occurs, and that is temporarily, which is reversed in 24 hours and without medication. And this is much less than when you look at the welding arc. So same like welding arc, people, they start burning sensation in the night, and in about 15 to 20 hours or 24 hours, they recover on their own. So it's a transient and temporary effect. Mild to moderate skin darkening or tanning happens, which is reversed in about 7 to 10 days without any treatment, but you can take a protection of using sunscreen. And low malignancy basal cell carcinoma can occur after cumulative exposure of over 800 hours at a daily dose of 3.1 joule per centimeter square. So carcinogenicity of the UVC light is there, but we are not going to expose ourselves for 800 hours at a rate of 3.1 joule per centimeter square. Unless somebody is very foolish, there is no chance of carcinoma. And even at that, the carcinoma happening rate is 1 in about 1000. There are UV protection glasses available with which you can protect your cornea, and there are sunscreens which are available with which you can protect your face. And the dose of UVC at 1 millijoule per centimeter square no, this is too less, 2 joule, and this is 1 millijoule. So it's almost like 2000th of the maximum toxicity dose. So at that dose, spike protein inactivation occurs in 4 seconds. The virus capsid is destroyed in about 40 seconds, and the genome, RNA genome, is destroyed in about 80 seconds. Even E. coli, which is a tough bacteria, destroyed in 1.5 minutes, and MRSA, that is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, gets destroyed in about 2 minutes. Clostridium welchii and C. difficile spore gets destroyed in about 3 minutes time. And corneal and skin epithelium cell volume is pretty large enough to accommodate 7 lakh COVID-19 viruses in each. And 16 minutes of exposure needed to tanning, that we discussed in the previous slide. There is no much depth of penetration, and does not reach retina because the crystalline lens absorbs all UV light. After a very, very long, very many days UV light exposure, there may be a formation of cataract, but it does not reach the retina. It kills bacteria, spores, and fungus cells depending on the load, depending on the humidity, in about 4 minutes to 80 minutes. UVC disinfection can be done daily. It can be done several times a day, and can be done also overnight, whereas chemical fumigation cannot be done on TID basis or QID basis, or not even on daily basis. It does not have any toxic or smelly or carcinogenic chemicals. There is no recurrence expenses because one tube, which costs around 2000 rupees, lasts over 9000 hours, that is about 7 years. And we use it daily for 5 to 6 hours in the night and the day total. And then also we don't have to change it up to 7.5 years. So it's pretty cheap. And a 4-foot tube fits in the same fixture plate as a normal white tube light. The same चौक पट्टी का जो दो का हम बोलते हैं उसी में वो फिट होती है. ट्यूब का कॉस्ट जो है 1700, putty and holder fixture is about 300, so the total cost is about 2000. And to achieve 2 millijoule per centimeter square, that is the double the lethal dose at 10 feet distance away from the tube, we need one tube of 36 watt. So consider one room of 10 by 10 feet, we'll need about one tube of 4 feet fitted in the center of the ceiling. And we have installed everywhere. And then what we did was that we got a timer designed by Professor Nimbark and his team at Manvandiri Institute of Technology in Bhavnagar. Now this is Arduino based timer which any of your local engineering college can design for you. So this will remain 30 seconds on and 30 minutes off when people are in any room. In that 30 seconds on time, even if the people are inside the room, no side effect is going to happen because it's a very short exposure, but it will inactivate the viruses which are on the surface or which are on the aerosol. And then when you go home, just continue 2 hours on when nobody is in the room in the night. So in that 2 hours, it will destroy all the fungi, all the bacteria. And the advantage is that in operation theater or in hospital, anywhere at the corner of the wall, you will never see a baba chara, which otherwise we have to keep on cleaning. Because of the UV, all the funguses are dead, so this never grows. And then I thought that fitting about 50 tubes in the whole hospital, spending 1 lakh rupees may not be possible for everybody. So what to do? So I just designed one trolley which will harbor 4 UV tubes. And this trolley can then be mobilized from one room to the other room and kept there for 5 minutes and radiate room by room by room. And then we improved on that design and put battery and inverter so that it is free even from plugging everywhere. You can just move it in the passages of the big hospitals. And this was quite well appreciated. This was done in collaboration with Hyderabad University, some of the professors and an industry known as MEDIC. So was well appreciated, and it is now being recommended by Department of Science and Technology as UV disinfection trolley. It's there on the website of that department. Then we thought of sterilizing the air coming in from the air condition. So we fitted UV in the central air condition or common air condition ductable plant. And this is going to be the future. Everyone has to have in their air conditioning UV to trap and kill all the bacteria before the air goes back. Otherwise, there will be recirculation of the same aerosol. And here you can see the difference after a week or 10 days. Without the UV, you can see the fungus back up, fungus growing up on the fins with the dust. And from that dust, which is very rich silica, the fungus gets food. So they start growing. And every 2 months or 3 months, you have to have this AC either brushed or chemical cleaned or chemical washed. Otherwise, the cooling effect will be gone. But when you have UV, no fungus or no bacteria grows on the fins. So that is also an advantage. You don't need frequent services of the air conditioning system. And eventually you will need a robotic kind of or a mobile kind of UV light in your home also, because once the lockdown opens, you start having guests at home, and when the guests they start coming, you don't know who has corona positive or who is a carrier case and has left the germs in your house. So you're in not only hospitals, our houses in the future, near future, will have to have some form of UV disinfection. And this is portable UVC disinfection for your devices where your fingers are touching maximum. And on these plastic surfaces, the viruses can survive for 5 to 6 days. So you really need your mobile and your computer screens and everything which is made up of synthetic plastic and synthetic fibers needs to be cleaned or sterilized. Now, this is another interesting part of the UV, which is known as far UV, that is 222 nanometer. Up till now, what we talked was 254 nanometer. This 222 nanometer does not penetrate in the cornea because it does not go past the tear layers, and it does not penetrate even the skin. So this is the light which can be kept on even when the people are there, because it doesn't have any corneal toxicity, nor it has any skin toxicity. And just like 254, even this can kill the virus, inactivate the virus in 1 to 4 seconds. So from that, we made one temporary makeshift disinfector for the purses for larger item. When the people come in, you can just put your mobile here for 4 seconds or 5 seconds and take it up. And even you can make your hand sanitizer, which is a dry hand sanitizer, which will sanitize your hand with UV 222 just by keeping there for 4 seconds or 5 seconds. And it can be shown and demonstrated also. And this UV 222 is now also being fitted in the airplane and buses ceilings in China, so that they can keep it on even when the passengers are there. And this is the source from where I get Philips tube light in Gujarat. I don't know from where the other states will be getting, but you can ask this person, take a screenshot of this person's name and address. Mr. Dharmendra Shah is very cooperative. And there is another product which one very nice Indian company has developed, the MD of whom is today available with us in the panel discussion. So after my talk is over, he is going to be speaking something about it. But I'll just mention quickly that he has made a 36-watt portable UV, which is so nice that you can put it on a table surface or move it from one place to the other place or one room to the other room. And it has several safety features that when you switch it on, it will not switch on the UV until you have gone away for at least 10 feet. So you switch it on and you go away 10 feet, then only it will start. And it has a sensor, so as soon as the person comes into the room, it will switch off. And then when the person goes away, it will switch on again. And it also has a wireless remote control, and that too with having a 20-second delay timer. So when you switch it on, before it really switches on, you have 20 seconds time to go out of the room. So that's one very nice product from him. Now, other thing which he has designed is something very, very unique and very interesting, because this is a very small, like a UV wand, Ferry's wand. It is a rechargeable battery having a UV with 6 watt. And this you can carry with you in your bag when you travel and put it on your aeroplane seat in between, or car seat, or wherever you want disinfection. Within 4 seconds it will destroy, not destroy but inactivate the viruses, and in about 40 seconds it will destroy the viruses. So this will be a useful, very useful product from him for all of us. And then, as I said, for home, this kind of robot they are developing, they'll be soon coming out. And here is his number and his secretary's number. You can take a screenshot of this and contact them if you wish to purchase this UV. I have no financial interest in any of the names and numbers I have given, but I personally feel that UV is the way to go. And before we go into the section of in vivo UV, in Latin, viva means life. Again, that word goes from Sanskrit, jiva. So in vivo means use of ultraviolet light in life, when in humans. So that is another section which is very interesting, more interesting than this. So I'll stop sharing my screen at this moment.